It's a lovely Saturday end. We are back, but to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. And welcome to Off the Pitch. I'm your host, Amos, aka Amore. For those who can't access us via TV, you can also watch us live. That's on our Facebook page. Come and follow it, like it, and you'll be able to catch us live there as we give you nothing but the highlights of what took place within the course of the week in terms of sports. I'm not alone on set. I'm joined by my two handsome men. That's Ango Rapson and Augustine. Ango Rapson, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Amos, and good morning, dear viewers. It's been a lovely week. We thank God for having sparing our lives, and to be alive is not a privilege, really. It's just by His grace that we are here, and we're able to discuss nothing but the best of what we do. And the week has been a very, very busy week in terms of sport, and so many nice things to talk about. The ladies were in Malawi. We had our very own Patson Daka making history, and it's just been a very, very good week. And good morning, dear viewers, and we look forward to the show.
Augustine, a smiling week it has been after Red Arrows had put a smile on our faces, beating Ghost by a goal to nil scored by one James Tamanga. How has been the week so far?
Yeah, we turn all the glory and honor to the Most High God for the gift of life and good health. It's been an eventful week. It's been a mixed week because I was down during the week. Then it was my birthday recently, and Red Arrows.
How many birthdays do you have?
I just have one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's been an eventful week. Impressed with the girls getting an away goal in Malawi. It's going to be crucial come the end of the qualifying round. And we saw a lot of Zambian players finding the back of the net. But it started with Patson Daka against United over the weekend. Then it followed up with the King Cleans Kangwa, one of the best goals you ever see this season, not just in the Russian league, but in Europe overall. We saw Lazarus Kambole break his duck. We saw Gampani score a couple of goals, and we saw Tosta Zawata being voted man of the match. I think it's been very, very good for Zambia as a country because most of our players are doing it very well at the highest level.
And Patson Daka breaking the records.
Well, we could see the lad the moment he was put on in a game against Manchester United. You could see that he was angry for goal. In that small space of time that he was given to be on the pitch, he had 3 nice attempts. One of them resulted into a bounce back by the goalkeeper, which was slotted in, and eventually he broke the deadlock and scored against the biggest team in the world, that's Manchester United, and great record for him. He goes into the Europa League, gets the nod ahead of Vardy. Of course, what Brendan talked about, player rotation, that he can't choose 11 same players in all the matches. He decided to give him a heads up to start up front. Did he disappoint? He didn't. Did he break the record?
He did.
The first Leicester City player to score 4 goals since 1958. Great record indeed. In the same course of the week, we saw him being nominated for Player of the Week and Europa League, and I could see in many WhatsApp groups where people were campaigning that we needed to vote for him, and we exactly did that. And I think those votes just didn't come mainly from here, but it was just across the world because of his splendid performance in that particular game where they actually emerged victorious and won by 4 goals to 3 away in Russia, and fantastic game it was.
How is it a boost coming into the weekend's game? Are we seeing him start, or he'll be benched again?
It's a very, very difficult call for Brendan Rodgers because once a player is building up on his form and you are getting a player scoring 4 goals in one game, and in perpetuity, every game that he has played in the last 3 games, his impact is very, very critical. But again, when it comes to here, the question that we have now is the hierarchy of players at Leicester City in terms of the centre forward, will it remain the same with Vardy being number 1, followed by Nacho and Patson Daka? When you look at how he has broken the record and how his performance has been consistently in the last 3-4 games that he has been coming on and starting, he deserves to start. But that core really remains up to Brendan Rodgers. Sometimes these coaches will play on the mind of the player and basically rest him and tell him to say, you know what, you did a very, very fantastic job during the course of the weekend. Take a rest. I will give you the second half to play. Probably that is what is likely to happen to him.
And we'll just take a very, very short break and we'll be right back to give you more in terms of the exciting week that we had in sports.
Camnet TV is here to entertain, educate and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 07:30 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 09:30 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chuluwa comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
We saw the ladies being in action within the course of the week when they played Malawi. They were hosted in Malawi, and we've got a return leg that will be played here at Ngoloma Stadium. That's on the 26th. That's on a Tuesday, and the ladies drew with Grace Chanda putting us ahead in the 20th minute, and Malawi equalizing with a goal coming from Sabina Tom. That's in the 66th minute. And perhaps when your analyzation in terms of how the game was played and how the women's national team is performing so far, or maybe I start with you, Augustine.
I think it's interesting to see how this women's team have reached this far, because they were third placed in the COSAFA tournament. I think it was a very, very good preparatory for them going into the COSAFA, because they played high-profile teams like Tanzania. I think it gave them enough confidence going into this encounter against Malawi away. It was always going to be important to get a very good result in Malawi, so that for the 10 leg you have got somewhere where to start from. And Grace Chanda putting the girls in front was massive. The partnership between Grace and Ochumba was always going to be very, very key going into this encounter, and it paid off by Grace scoring for the Chipolopolo, but we considered the advantage is that we got the away goal and we didn't lose, so we still have got that chance. We are in the driving seat coming into this encounter. Being played here at home, we have got the upper hand, because if you look at the team, they have stayed together for a very good number of years now. They understand each other very well. They play some decent football, and we just hope they come here and finish off the game to qualify to the next round, which will be very, very crucial for women's football development here in the country.
Well, for me, very, very disappointing outing. In as much as Augustine is appreciating the point away from home, I think for me, we should have done better. We are a country that has probably set a very, very high bar with regards to women's football on the African continent, and we are trying as much as possible to get to the South African standards and the rest of the teams that have gone ahead of us. But I think when you look at where we are coming from and the preparations that we've had, we should have done better. This is a game where in the first 5 minutes we had a penalty which was missed. The penalty was missed, and you tend to wonder now to say if we got a penalty in the first 5 minutes, it means that we probably pressed quite a lot in that game, and eventually that kind of pressure that we had resulted into a goal by Grace Chanda, and to come and concede in the 66th minute, when according to the statistics that I was seeing, it was a fantastic game of football by the ladies team, and the chances they missed, that game would have been buried away from home. But again, like Augustine has said, when they come back here, Malawans, they are our traditional customers. It reminds me of how the under-17 just tormented them at home, and I think it will be a repeat when you look at the senior women's national team as they take on Malawi on Tuesday in the return match. 1 point away from home, 1 goal away from home, puts them in a very, very good position for them to proceed.
Are we expecting to see a different approach in terms of the Tuesday game?
Well, probably the 12th fan on the pitch is the one that is going to make a very huge difference when it comes to the approach. For me, I think the same players that we've had are the same players that probably are going to be used, and if there will be changes, probably 1 or 2, but I think the same ladies that played are capable of producing results as they have done in the past. We took the game maybe a bit slightly, but in terms of the aggregate, it still remains we are ahead of Malawi. But should we go with an attacking method, or maybe we use the same formula and the same system that we played that side, Augustine?
I think we just have to attack the game coming into this encounter, because we are the home side. Malawi will come here to try and frustrate us. They will maybe sit back and try to hit us on the counter, which we have to be very wary of, because Malawi are no pushovers. I think if you look at the way they played at the COSAFA, you can realize that they have also gained in terms of women's football. They are growing slowly. You can see at the large scale in terms of women's football in Africa, it has taken a very, very huge step. And we have to commend CAF and the associations for that, because they are putting in a lot to try and improve women's football. And you can see the technical ability by these ladies. You can realize that they have got a lot of potential. And going into this encounter, we need to start fast. We need to approach the game with a lot of aggression, because we need to kill it. I think in the first 45 minutes it will be crucial, because Malawi's plan will come, let's stay in the match up to the 75th minute, then now let's throw the caution to the wind. I think so Zambia need to be very, very careful in that regard.
What's your prediction score, Augustine?
I think we will win by 3-1.
Garapsa.
I will stand by Augustine's result, except I'll take away 1 from the Malawian team, because I don't think they are capable of scoring away from home. And when you look at the composition of the squad and our goalkeeping department, we have 2 brilliant goalkeepers in the Zambia national women's soccer team, and I don't see Malawi breaking any barrier in our defense, especially with the 12th fan, the 12th player on the pitch being allowed to be in the stadium to just cheer those girls up, and I think we are up for it. 3 unanswered goals probably is the minimum we can go.
Let's look at the continental football. We had the game that was played that last week, Saturday. Augustine and Angorapson went to cover that. That's the Red Arrows game versus Agosto, if I'm not mistaken. And the goal coming from one veteran, James Chamanga, in the 36th minute. Augustine, how would you rate the playing style that Red Arrows took in this game?
I think Red Arrows dominated play. I think they will have themselves to blame for going with a 1-goal lead to Angola, because they had a good number of chances they could have buried. I think one guilty player was Alassane Diarra. He always gets into good positions, and he failed to utilize the opportunities that he had. And I think, to me, if you look at the overall play, was very, very dominant by Arrows. They kept possession very well. They pressed Augusto in their area, and Augusto never had a lot of answers, I think, to the Arrows pressure. I think Kalido Kaimbe was exceptional on the day. He was always running in behind the defense. James Chamanga linking up play very, very good. I think he always looked like he's getting younger each time you watch him. Jemba, I think his hard work on and off the ball is it's unbelievable. Augusto, they really never gave a lot. away in this encounter, so you do not know what to expect exactly when you go to Angola, because it's tricky when the opponent come here and they do not show enough going forward. I think to me it's very, very tricky because you do not know what they can throw at you when you go to Angola. I noticed their back line was not the quickest. I think they played a very, very high line, but with slow defenders, which was always going to be an advantage for Arrows. If they played balls in behind, they could have stretched Augusto and won it maybe by 3 or 4 goals. But it was a good performance, and a victory, I think, was what Red Arrows deserved.
Angola, you were there as well in the stadium.
Disappointing result. Red Arrows could have done better. I sat next to Augustine when we were watching that game, and we could analyze the game at every point. And like Augustine has mentioned, Red Arrows could have actually scored a couple of goals because Pedro de Agosto's defense was quite slow, and I began to think probably it's a team that is using, I'm not sure about the age, but probably it could show that the pace of the defenders was not very, very good. And I think in that particular game, what Red Arrows needs to do when they go away from home is probably try and put very, very speed wingers. I would have loved if Juan Felix is considered in the starting 11 in the return match, so that we just put pressure on those defenders. What is more critical for Red Arrows is getting there and getting on the score sheet as quickly as they can to get that away goal that we need. 1 new away from home is probably an achievement for Pedro Agosto, because they came here looking at Red Arrows, and when you look at themselves, probably they've played more Champions League games, more CAF games than Red Arrows in the recent past. And when you look at how defensive they were, I didn't see them dangerously attack Red Arrows in that particular game. And probably they were saving the best for the last leg. But clearly, much of the play was, the area of concentration for me was in the middle of the park. The ball went a couple of times behind the defenders, and I think our strikers for Red Arrows were very, very unlucky not to have scored the many goals that we needed. But that particular encounter for me, very disappointing result. They were very solid. They got a lot of possession, very good passing football. Alassana Diarra, very, very good midfielder, if you ask me. Jemba, like he has said, he's one guy who could hold on to the ball. He created a couple of fouls. He was taking on the defenders, and they did everything right, except they didn't put the ball in the back of the net a couple of times that they should have done. And it might be very, very difficult away in Angola. Very, very, very difficult. I've seen a couple of teams travel there and come back with 1 point.
Tomorrow, Pedro de Agosto hosting Red Arrows. That's at 17 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And going into that game, Red Arrows having a disappointing result, as you are saying. How are the chances? How are you rating the chances of them winning that side, or just aiming a point?
It's a very, very difficult hunting ground, and as a patriotic Zambian, I would probably wish them all the best. But with regards to football, I didn't read much of the game with regards to what Agosto is capable of doing. They were quite on the mild side on the field of play, and they were very cautious. The game that was played at Hero Stadium, they were quite cautious. They would try and attack. You could see that when it's time for them to attack, you probably find that the ball is on the wing. There's nobody in the box. They have to play back and look for the next player to pass on to the ball. What they are going to unveil away at home at their home ground might be a very, very different ball game. And for me, Red Arrows just need to concentrate. They just really need to concentrate and just don't lose it. Because for me, once they unleash themselves out in front of their fans, it could be a very, very interesting encounter. To see Red Arrows come back with 1 point would be a very, very great blessing in disguise.
Augustine, what approach should Red Arrows go with?
I think, like Angorapson said, I think the key thing is to try and start on a front foot and get that much needed away goal, because this game is very, very tricky, to be honest. It can go either way. It can go Red Arrows side, it can go Augusto side. I think if you look at Premier de Augusto, I think they are more of in a transition because they have got a lot of youngsters in their team. If you look at a lot of players have come through their academy playing for Augusto, and looking at their record in the last 5 matches, including the game they played against Red Arrows, they've scored 11 goals and conceded 7. So what does that tell you? In as much as Augusto score a lot of goals, they concede goals. So it's something which Red Arrows was saying, go and capitalize, try and get an early goal, try and settle them at their home ground, because you do not want them to get into their rhythm together with the fans, because it gives you a very, very difficult task. If they get into their rhythm, the fans are behind them, it becomes very, very tricky for Arrows. They need to be very brave going into this game. They need to defend away from their box. In games like this, you need to dominate both boxes for you to qualify. You need to be very, very solid in your own box. Do not give chances away. And when you find chances, which will be very, very few in Angola, make sure you take them. Unlike what they did at Heroes, one effort by Alassane Diarra was saved on the line. It could have been 2-0. Maybe that would have been a very, very comfortable result going away to Angola. And the good part is that Red Arrows, there are no injury concerns as at now. The only player missing is Sutra Shimenga, who is not registered for this competition because he was signed later on. So it's there for the taking. It can go either way, to be honest.
Any changes you want to see in the Red Arrows starting 11?
I think from the team which played at Hero Stadium, probably Sakulanda being a very attack-minded player, it doesn't give much tracking back out. Swap Sakulanda for Felix Ulaya to try and give them the width, to try and give them the speed and the penetration.
You conquer with that?
Simple. That's exactly what happened on last Saturday. And I think if you are using Crispin Sakulanda, you are better off having a very, very defensive-minded midfielders to help you when he loses a ball. He's a very, very good player when it comes to taking on defenders, but when it comes to retracting and getting behind the ball, he's a bit on the slow side. One of the players that can replace him, like I said in my earlier remark, is one Felix Ulaya, because Felix is able to go up, he's able to shoot, he's able to cut in. The goal that Cleans scored during the course of the week is exactly what Felix did at Nkoloma Stadium. From the similar angle, similar position, he scored that kind of a killer as well. That is the caliber of a player who Red Arrows kept on the bench last weekend. And for me, it should be the only change that they should put in that particular starting 11 for them to stand a very, very good chance of beating Augusto.
Your prediction result, Angorapson?
Scoreless draw.
Augusti?
1-1 draw.
So in short, Red Arrows is going through. That's the simplest
way to say Red Arrows is going through.
But it will be very,
a disappointing result for Zanaco, where Palangasheted by 3-0, and they are playing at home today. Will they turn the sides of the coin?
Augustine, Zanaco Football Club. You know, this whole season, they have scored 1 goal. So for me, when you say it's disappointing, I would have been very disappointed. Okay, not disappointed, very surprised.
If they were,
had they scored away from home. The other way around, it's not news. It's not news at all, if you ask me. They've lost a couple of games back home. They probably scored the most controversial goal against Nkana Football Club. It's the only goal they have this season in the Zambian Super League. And for them to go out there and concede by 3-0, to say the least, I was very disappointed with Kelvin Kaindo. His pre-match briefing yesterday was talking about how the opponents only had 3 chances. And out of those 3 chances, they converted all the 3 goals. That, for me, if I take them the other way around, I would actually laugh at him and blame him a lot. So if you had more chances than them, according to his own words, Zanaco created a myriad of chances, a lot of chances, but they never converted any of them. But when it comes to the opponents, the host side, 3 chances on target and 3 goals. What does it tell you about your technical ability as a manager? Very questionable. Coming into this game this afternoon, to be honest, very, very difficult for Zanaco Football Club. Scoring 4 unanswered goals, it's very possible mathematically, and in football, very, very possible. Just like Batson scored 4 in 1 game, they can also score, but it takes a lot of work, and that kind of work can be done overnight for them to come back from that 3-0 bashing to a 4-0 victory for them to proceed. What they are going to do today is probably try and win a game, but lose on goals that they'll concede. It will be a very, very difficult game for them. Very, very difficult. Moses Piri hasn't answered that call for them. When you look at their midfield, Kelvin Kapumbu, I don't think he protected that back line very well. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered when it comes to their back line, the way they've been conceding goals back home as well as in the CAF games, and it's a very, very tough call if you ask me. There's a game at Nkoroma, at Hero Stadium, the return match. If there's another option of another game to watch, I would have gone to watch the second game. Very, very difficult call for me. I'm speaking passionately. I love Zanaco Football Club, and it's a very, very good team. But I think they've put themselves in a very, very, very bad predicament for them to come back. I believe they can. It's a game of 11. Like the coach was bubbling with a lot of confidence that they're able to score 4. We can only wish them all the best.
Okay, where is it going wrong for Zanaco?
I think for me, technically, I think the technical bench are not doing enough. I think we have to be honest, the way Zanaco has been playing, probably mostly in the league, has been shambolic. Continental football, they've done a double over Okonangui. You do not know if Okonangui is in the caliber of Zanaco, if you have to be honest.
Yeah, in the caliber of Indeni.
If they were in our local league, they could have been not even in Indeni, they could have been maybe in the National League, if you have to be honest. The way Akonangui played, the way they approach to the game. If you look at Zanaco's, I think individuals need to take a good look at themselves going into this encounter. They do not give their all to the team. I think questions will start hanging around. Should they have let Moses Piri go and invested in the squad? I think that's one key area Zanaco would have addressed in the transfer market. That is not looking like the Moses Piri of last season. I think he looks very, very different. They have got experienced heads in there. They've brought in Saluan P to try and solidify that midfield, but it's not happening. They've brought in Isaac Shamjompa to try and make that defense watertight. Still, they're still leaking in goals like they did last season. So you tend to wonder what progress have Zanaco made from last season. I think I do not see any.
They've made one progress.
To be honest.
They brought Kelvin
Kaindu. So
that's the only progress.
I think if you look at Zanaco going into this encounter, Zanaco's DNA as a football club, we've seen Zanaco score many goals. We've seen them score 4, 5. This can be a very, very big issue, scoring 3 goals, because Zanaco in the past have done that. But is this
they did that with the great players?
If this group of Zanaco players, can they manage that task at hand? I think it's very, very hard to see, because not only should Zanaco score 3 goals, but they should keep their back door shut, because it's very, very crucial.
Which is not possible, because they lost the key and the key is gone. So the defense is open.
The most frustrating part is that Zanaco conceded 3 goals in 45 minutes. I think to me they went the entire first half goalless, then you go into the second half and then you concede 3 goals. I think to me, if you look at Zanaco, they've got a lot of experienced heads in Zio Tembo. He's played continental football. I think there should be a stage whereby when the game is running away from Zanaco, it's 2-0, maybe it's 1-0, you sense that we are now going under. You call the young boys, let's just stay in here, let's keep it tight, and let's take the game to Lusaka. Let's not lose by 3 goals to 0. I think they could have done that. They could have been very, very brave in the way they did things. They shouldn't have let the game get to 3 goals. It becomes a mountain to climb, because 3 goals is very, very tough. I think to me, Omeri will come with different tactics. They will come and slow down the game. They will frustrate Zanaco in whatever possible way they can do. And the positive side about Zanaco is that Sambalunga has returned. He comes with a lot of experience, but he hasn't done well as a Zanaco player. We have to be honest, ever since he returned to Zanaco.
Where did he do
well?
So even at Tinkana Football Club.
I think ever since he came to Zanaco,
Zambia, the Zambian League.
I'm looking at Zanaco. Yeah, ever since he came to Zambian League, you remember Butekoni was one of the best players. He produced the goods for Butekoni. He struggled at Ghana, but ever since he came to Zanaco, he found it hard. But his experience and his know-how in big games, maybe you advise the young players what to do. I think they just need to keep it basic, play with a flat back 4, have midfielders that will work for the team. They need that Zanaco this afternoon, and have wingers that will stay wide and high up the field, putting a lot of crosses into the box and just hope for the best, because realistically it's very, very tough for Zanaco.
Your prediction score as we look at the Super League.
Well, for me, really, very, very difficult circumstances, if you ask me, for Zanaco Football Club, like I've earlier alluded to. And, to begin with, the game against Elmereki was being played at a neutral venue. Neutral venue, neutral fans. Then you go and concede 3 unanswered goals. What stops Elmereki from thinking this is also one of the neutral venues that we are used to as well? They'll come to Heroes and probably psych themselves in their mindset to say, let's take this as a neutral venue. We can take on these guys the same way we did against them in Egypt. So for me, very, very difficult call. I see Zanaco Football Club emerging victorious in this game, but losing on away goals.
Augustine. I think Zanaco might win it by 2-1, then they drop in the CAF Confederations Cup. Then it ends there.
It ends there. Anyway, it ends there for Zanaco. That's what the lads are saying here. But we'll take a very short break and we'll be right back on the other side.
Camnet TV is here to entertain, educate and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 07:30 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 09:30 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chuluwa comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
An interesting encounter today. That's Zesco hosting Green Buffaloes. For me, it's a cracker of a game that Angorapson, we'll send Angorapson, in fact. Angorapson, there's a big game, you have to travel, cover that since you don't want to cover the Zanaco game. But let's look at Zesco United going into this game after thrashing Kansanshi Dynamos by 4-0, and Dixon Zappa getting his first Zesco goal. And we've got the mighty Green Buffaloes with Fred Desamu. We saw Fred Desamu at his highest peak where he scored 5 goals.
So you see now, Amos is not fair. He's begun by talking about Friday Sam, whose 5 goals were last week on Friday.
Yes,
he's forgetting that Nkana beat Zesco United over the weekend. Exactly. So talk about it also.
No.
Okay, let's leave it there. Well, Zesco United is coming into today's game.
Yes.
Having recovered from probably one of their shocking defeats of the season against Nkana. Of course, we are used to beating, Nkana is used to beating Zesco at home.
And I said it was going to be 50-50, eh? It was going
I didn't have confidence. I didn't have confidence to say the least. Remember, we had a conversation and I said,
realized about Nkana, whenever the bigger the game, the bigger the Nkana. I think
the smaller the team,
yeah, exactly.
We drop our heads and we get to their levels.
The Manchester
and I think for me that 4-0 bashing of Kansanshi Dynamos in midweek has restored parity and the confidence in the players and the coach as well. And if that result didn't go their way, when you look at the fixture where you're just from losing to Nkana Football Club, if Kansanshi managed to get a draw or a win in that midweek game, it would have put a lot of pressure on Coach Numba this weekend. But apparently against Kansanshi, putting 4 goals behind them was very, 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 very good from the lads. And I think Zesco United, the confidence in the team in camp has been brought back, and facing a team that has only drawn one game and they have lost none in Green Buffaloes this afternoon is a very, very difficult encounter, if you ask me. Friday Samu's goal scoring boots, if he continues to wear the same boots into today's game, it will be very, very difficult. I saw him run rings around Indeni and scoring those. I think he scored 3 of those balls were through his head, and one of them was actually in the presence of the goalkeeper, who's got 2 things: his legs and his hands, and jumping. Then the striker only had his height and his head, and he made the best player on the day by scoring that particular header. And it will be a very, very difficult encounter when you look at the enterprising Paul Simpemba from GBFC, when you look at Robin Siame, when you look at how Jack Chirwa controlled the midfield on the day. Very, very fantastic. I think Justin Chinama is creating a very, very strong squad in GBFC, and I now understand why they had to recall him, and his performance on the pitch, and of course the players themselves. I think they've started to believe in themselves. You would see how they prepare for games, how they are doing everything as a team. It's just a fantastic squad to watch this particular season. The game against Zesco United this afternoon, very, very difficult, to say the least. When I look at the caliber of the players that Zesco has, as well as Green Buffaloes, I would say Green Buffaloes is recording their first loss of the season this afternoon.
Let's look at the last pass. This GBFC game, like you have said, and Rapson, if you go punch for punch, man for man, I think GBFC are not even in the conversation of playing against the side of Zesco United. But I think if you look at their personnel, Zesco United are very, very well equipped. But if you look at it on the flip side, GBFC, the spirit, the teamwork, the togetherness, I think it's the reason why they are where they are right now. I think you've talked about Robin Siame, very, very good player. I think Paul Simpemba will be very, very key. I think this is the best we've seen of Paul Simpemba ever since he moved from Kara Warriors. I think he had this best time at Kara Warriors. He struggled when he went into GBFC, but now you can see he's found his feet at GBFC. And it's going to be a very, very big test for Zesco United's young fullbacks in Mukandawere and John Chishimba. They are coming up against very, very tricky and speedy wingers.
The beauty is they are quite fast as well, exactly. So it will be a very nice game.
Another player who has impressed me for GBFC, I think, who has not been talked about much, has been Robert. Is it Robert Msonda, the young midfielder? Yes, very, very creative. I think he gets into good areas. He makes things happen for GBFC. And one interesting thing about GBFC is that they just keep it simple. They play 4-4-2 formation, and it's very, very difficult for most teams.
In the last past 5 games that these teams have met, Zesco United have won 3, and the remaining 2 are all draws. Any different result that we're expecting to see today? A win maybe from GBFC?
Well, when you look at for example, the GBFC defense, very, very solid. Very, very solid. My only concern there is the agility of their goalkeeper. The agility of their goalkeeper is very, very questionable. Even in the game against Indian, he made a couple of saves. But you know where the ball is coming directly at him. He's one goalkeeper who's never going to hold the ball. He always does that and pushes the ball back into play. When you look at the swiftness of the Zesco United strikers, once he makes that kind of mistake he made against Indeni, I see Zesco United capitalizing on that. And you know, that's one goalkeeper who's very tall and very huge. He makes one save, he falls down. By the time he's picking himself up because of his body size, Zesco United will take advantage of that, I'm telling you. And you and I will come and have a chat next weekend.
I think interestingly is how GBFC set up, because most of the times GBFC will try and soak up the pressure and hit you on the break, and it suits them very, very well because they are a very hard-working team. They work for each other very, very well. Jack Chila will sit in front of that back four and try and protect everything thrown at GBFC, and Zesco United will have it tricky to try and break down that defense because it's not easy to play through the GBFC defense, and Zesco United do not have the most speedy strikers. Jesse Were is is a little bit odd. John Chingando is no longer the same. Winston Kalin. I think the battle will be that in midfield. Chanda Mukuka, Dixon Chapa, with Jack Chiro on the other side and Robin. I think it will be very, very interesting. One player who can unlock this game for ZESCO United will be Kelvin Mwanga and Edward Lungu. They will be very, very key. If Spencer Saudu gets a start, he will be very, very instrumental as well for ZESCO United.
A quick one on corruption.
Or Kelvin Kambamba. I beg to differ really. I took time to, he was taken off in the game against Nkana because he couldn't do what he should have been doing correctly. And that player needs to change his mindset if he has to help ZESCO United. He really needs to have a change in mindset. He's played football, he knows he's a good player, but if you are not contributing to the team's effort, you are nothing as an individual.
I think the message which came out was he wasn't following the coach's instruction. Like you have said, he's a very, very good player. He needs to stick to what the coach has told them to do. And if you do not do that, you break the team's shape. So True. That was, Mama thought he was always going to be a danger. Because most people questioning the substitution, they thought certain players were not playing well. But why was he sacrificed? He wasn't doing what the coach was asked him to do. Because if you remember, Pep Guardiola and Thierry Henry were together at Barcelona. Henry was told to just stay on the line, just stay wide. Henry wasn't getting a touch of the ball, and then he started coming inside. As he started coming inside, the game was approaching halftime, and he scored maybe on the 45th minute. And at halftime, Guardiola said, "You're not going back, you're not following my instructions, you have been sacked." Because it's the shape that the team has. And if you do not, you might think you are clever and get into certain areas, and then open up the team without even knowing. And Mwanga should surely improve on that.
Should I go for the prediction on this one, or we just wait and see?
I think
I've already done my part.
I'll go.
Green Buffaloes is recording their first loss of the season. Sadly,
looking at the tactical side of the game, Numba Mamba has won more than the counterpart. Chinama plays a very, very defensive game. It's very, very solid. I think a draw will be good for Zambia.
Another crack of the game for me today is Kansanshi Dynamos hosting Ghana, and from the 2 games that these have played, competitive games, they've all come as a result of a draw.
Well, Nkana Football Club, probably, if they're not wearing the same jackets that they went and wore against Chambishi, they should be able to come out very, very victorious, because it's a situation where I think these players need to be psyched correctly. Nkana is very, very inconsistent, to say the least. And you get a very big game, they emerge victorious. You go and face an average team, sorry to say that without disrespecting any team, but these are teams that you can know that this is an average team. And we came back from beating Cabo Warriors. We get into a game against Chambishi. I think the players were already there thinking that this is an easy win. What happened to us? We got beaten. Now, we are from beating ZESCO United. I only hope that we have got the technical team that is able to psych the players and prepare them very, very psychologically for the game against the Mavanga boys. The Mavanga boys are not very easy to beat at their own home ground. They're very difficult hunting ground, and I think for me, that game, when you look at the confidence that we have in the team and the technical bench of George and Beston, I think is doing wonders for the club, and getting into Solwezi this afternoon and playing against Kansanshi, I would say it will be a scoring draw.
I think it will be very, very interesting. Nkana versus Kansanshi Dynamos away at the Independence Stadium. I've looked at Nkana in these sort of games which we predict to be small games and playing average teams. With the way what Nkana, they look disorganized more when they're playing these teams. I think you see Alex Ngonga goes to press, he presses alone and the team doesn't follow him, then teams play through him. It happened against Red Arrows when they played Kansanshi. James Chamanga would go and press and then the rest do not follow in, and then they played through easily. They've got very, very creative midfielders in Alfonso, who was one of their best, came up the other season. They've got Daniel Chama. He's very, very key. He will run rings in that midfield, and they've got the likes of Bruce Msakanya in the flanks. They have got Maleka.
And Adam Zikiru might play the first game today.
I think it's going to be very, very tricky for both sides. I think they need to have character because they have both been inconsistent, if you have to be honest. Nkana Football Club always standing up for big games. Kansanshi, they haven't turned up this season. They just showed up when they played two continental teams in Red Arrows and Car Warriors, and then they got beat by Kafue Celtic, which is very, very frustrating when you are coming from a very, very good performance and then you go to play Kafue Celtic and then you get beat. Nkana Football Club have got all the experience, and Quicksilver, that was his machine. He knows how to operate it. So Nkana will have that upper hand because Chambeshi was the coach of this Kansanshi Dynamos team, and the key player in this match, I think, will be Scotch Mwanza and Go. You have a very, very busy day.
Your prediction, Augustine?
I feel Ghana will win it by 1 goal to nil.
Scored by Bazo.
It may be Iketiama's first goal.
We've got another encounter. Car Warriors hosting Prison Leopards.
For me, that is a blockbuster of a game. It's a game of the weekend. It's a derby in Cowboy, and previously it used to be Kaiser versus Cabo Warriors, but now it's Prison Leopards, and Prison Leopards, they have all the support and all the support they need from their sponsors, and I think they've made a couple of signings that should make them move away from where they are now on the league standing, and it will be a very, very difficult encounter. Cabo Warriors coming from a game away from home where they conceded first last weekend, but they didn't put their heads down. They still went ahead and hammered the Green Eagles right at their own backyard. Coming back home and hosting Prison Leopards to be a cracker of a game. I probably feel Cabo Warriors will be dominant in that game.
Hey, Augustine.
I think it's an interesting encounter. It has mostly ended in draws when these teams have met. I think they have just won a piece in the last 5. If you look at Car Warriors and doing this season has been conceding goals. They have conceded 6 goals in the last 5 games, and they have scored 5. I think if they can just close their back door, I think Car Warriors will be forced to reckon with, because they have got a lot of attacking talent. If you look at Twiza Chaivera, Akakurubero and Jimmy Lovu, they will give you a goal on any given day. Yes, with Prince Mumba in that creative hole. I think they have got a lot with Ali Sadiq. They have got a lot of attacking players, Car Warriors. They just need to find their feet. Prison Leopards, they look like they're going to be the surprise package of the season with the transfer.
By the way, I'm yet to watch that international goalkeeper they got, eh?
Yeah, I think the transfer they did, they brought in a lot of players, but not many have been played. I think Conrad Luchanga, this is a very, very good opportunity. They have given him another chance at Prison Leopards. We've seen Zakaria Chilongo. She's taken his chances and he looks a decent player like he was at Car Warriors. It's going to be very, very tricky this afternoon, and I feel it will end in a draw.
We've got another game, Chambishi hosting Green Eagles, and they're separated by a point.
This game, probably, sorry to say this, it will be the most boring game of the weekend. I think last 5 games, both Prison Leopards, Chambishi and Green Eagles, they have all scored 1 goal. Chambishi scored against Nkana, which was their only goal in the last 5 games. Green Eagles scored their 1 goal against Car Warriors in the last 5 games. Green Eagles have only won once against a Power Dynamos, who was very, very struggling. Power Dynamos at the time. And if you look at Chambishi, they won at Nkana, which was probably a shocker. It will be the shocking result come the end of the season, because we're not going to see many of those. Look at the way these 2 managers are set up. I think, to me, if you look at Green Eagles, they're all of long balls into a penalty area, putting in a lot of crosses. Chikwanda, likewise, is very, very defensive minded. So I do not see any spark coming from this game. To be honest, it's going to be a boring encounter.
Well, for me,
get their first win.
For me, I think I'm seeing Green Eagles emerging victorious in that game. I think they were in transit when they stopped, and their sponsor Extender decided to give them a set of boots, and just to boost their confidence. And I think that will mean a lot to them. And as they go away in Chambishi, to be honest, I'm seeing Green Eagles emerging victorious on the day.
I also feel Green Eagles win. Chambishi, I just said, I side set to play away from home because they're just going to sit in, soak up the pressure and try to hope to get a goal on a set piece. That's what Chambishi are good at. I think the best they can do is a draw, but they will get beat 1-0.
Some interesting games as well being played in the Eden. That's the first Eden University National Division 1. That's the fixture for week 8. Today we've got Gomes versus Kaisa. It's at the Dollar Hill, and we've got Quito United versus Young Green Buffaloes at Garden Park. Any interesting?
Those are today's games.
No, these are just the two that I've mentioned. Any comments that you'd want to make on the two?
I think for me the area of concentration should be probably on the top 6 teams that are battling for qualification up there, and Gomes really, they are neither here. They've lost games before, and it's a very, very difficult call to even talk about these particular games. Very, very difficult ground to go to, and it will be a tough game. Very, very tough game if you ask me. But the easiest game of the weekend, the toughest game of the weekend that I'm seeing is a game between Napsa Stars and Livingstone Pirates. To be a very, very big game of the season for Eden.
My question is, what has gone wrong at Livingstone Pirates? The team which was flying last season, and then you look at what they have been doing this one. I think to me it's not looking pretty. I think is it their management?
It's administrative.
Well, I think to me the coach was very, very key to this Livingstone Pirates side. They made their home ground fortress, but it's not looking good for Livingstone Pirates, and they need to put their house in order, and very, very soon, because they might be playing the provincial leagues again.
Difficult game. They were at home the other weekend, and I think Mufulira Wanderers went and recorded their first win of the season by 3-0. And you know, when you're at home, a team has traveled all the way from Mufulira, so many kilometers away from home. They still get into your backyard and rip you apart and go away with the 3 points. Very, very difficult circumstances. They should begin by fixing the administrative issues. Once you fix the administrative issues, you go to the technical issues. Then the players will begin to see that the togetherness in both the administrators and the technical bench is actually going to start yielding results. The game against Napsa Stars today, Napsa, the league leaders, current league leaders, they were very unfortunate to lose the first game of the season against City of Lusaka. From then onwards, they've looked up and forged forward, and they are league leaders, and it's not by mistake, it's not by fluke. I've watched these lads, and probably I'm going to watch them this afternoon as well. Coach Perry Mtapa has done a very, very fantastic job at Napsa Stars, and last weekend they were coming from a victory against Kaisa, and to get into this game knowing very well that they don't have to look down, they just have to look up, because everybody else is looking at them as league leaders.
Anyway, some other interesting games in the Eden. We've got Young Green Eagles versus Nchanga Rangers, which is one of the biggest cracker as well in the fixtures that are being played today. And we've got Tesco Malaiti versus Wapula Green Eagles.
Well, Wapula Green Eagles came into Eden National League with very, very high hopes. I have watched them twice this season, and they play with the football, but results don't go their way. I've watched them hustle in the field of play. I watched them against Napsa Stars. I watched them against City of Lusaka. They do all the playing. But the results never go their way. And for me, really difficult game for them. And the game, what was the area game you talked about?
Young Green Eagles.
Young Green Eagles. Nchanga Rangers. Well-sponsored team now. Well-sponsored Nchanga Rangers. One of the smartest teams in Eden National Division 1. And it will be very interesting in that game. And those are teams that should be very close, putting pressure on Napsa Stars. But when you look at their current position, Mufulira Wanderers, Nchanga Rangers, they've just become landlords in mid-table. Landlords in mid-table. Probably they are very comfortable because they are not going to provincial football. They are still maintaining their status quo. Very, very difficult game if you ask me. Young Green Eagles, very good side.
Nchanga Rangers, they've been blowing hot and cold. A lot of inconsistency by Nchanga Rangers. Today they produce one of the best performances. Then the following week they are sleeping. I think they just need to be very, very consistent, Nchanga Rangers, in their performance and trying to challenge for those top 4 slots to try and get back into the Super League. That has been their project ever since they were in town, but they just need to be consistent.
You know, I wish Resga, if you are watching, please call. There's one fan, Resga Mungaila, who is a very, very close ally of Nchanga Rangers, and the guy has been following the team, and when it comes to them being local, he understands it very well. It's a team that will produce a very, very fantastic performance this weekend. They go into next weekend, the story is different. They are very, very inconsistent, if you ask me.
Let's switch our attention to Europe and Rapson, where we've got some interesting fixtures over the weekend. We've got Man U hosting Liverpool tomorrow. We've got Barcelona hosting Real Madrid. We've got Inter hosting Juventus, if I'm not mistaken on that. And let's look at the game that will be played tomorrow at Manchester United against Liverpool. Manchester United,
the inconsistent Manchester United,
which over the course of the week won a miraculous win again to save one Ole. People are saying they are saving Ole, they are playing for Ole. How should this game, or what's your prediction for that game tomorrow?
Well, Manchester United against big teams, they are always producing results, and tomorrow's game against Liverpool will be very, very interesting. The deadly strikers of Fabinho, you look at Salah, you look at Mane. Liverpool is in great form. Manchester United, full of ups and downs. But on a day like tomorrow, I don't see Manchester United succumbing to the pressure of those strikers. My only worry is our defense, really. I don't see Harry Maguire being an armband bearer at a big club like Manchester United. Very highly overrated defender, and if you ask me, he's been very, very inconsistent. He's allowed a couple of goals because of his own personal mistakes at the expense of the club. And that might be very, very costly to Manchester United in tomorrow's game against Liverpool. The absence of Varane, you look at Lindelof, probably we have Eric Bailly as one of the options in that centre-back. Very, very difficult game. But clearly, against Liverpool, I don't see Manchester United succumbing to that pressure.
I think I wouldn't be very, very surprised if I see Ole go with 3 centre-backs into this match to try and contain the pressure of those 3 Liverpool attackers. I think he might go with Eric Bailly, Lindelof and Maguire. From my own experience with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going into this encounter, I may play with a 3-5-2 to try and hit Liverpool on the counter. But if you look at the United setup, what you're going to do against a Liverpool side, if you do not press Liverpool very well, they will play through you, because you saw that against Leicester City. United cannot press because Ronaldo cannot press. If Ronaldo doesn't press, it's difficult, because you need to, if you're going to press a team like Liverpool, you need to press them as a unit. You need to press them as a block. If you're not, it's one guy is not doing the press, then it becomes very, very difficult. Ronaldo, you can see, is 37. He's always reserving his legs for the final third rather than the defensive work, which has been very, very tricky for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because in previous encounters he's won games of this magnitude because he's depended on the pace of Rashford, Martial. They will press, they win back the ball, and then they will.
Which player did you mention?
Martial. Yeah. I think he won it. He won the debut before Corona at Old Trafford, Anthony Martial. So that's how Ole used to play with his players.
That player is like Brian Muida.
Looking at time and Rapson, your final remarks.
Well, the Brighton game really, for me, gives me a lot of hope that we are going to see one of our own in Enoch Mwepu. He was being spoken to very highly by the coach, that they've prepared him very, very well in his training sessions. He was on the bench against Norwich City, never played a part in that game. He's back in the squad again, and the coach has said the lad is very, very prepared and he's able to play a part in that game. And to the women's national soccer team on Tuesday, probably we can only wish you all the best as you take on Malawi. And it's been very busy week for the ladies. They traveled to Malawi, they are back, and now they have to qualify to the next stage of this women's AFCON, and we can only wish them all the best. To Nkana Football Club away in Solwezi, you know what that means, Nkana Football Club.
Augustine, your final remarks.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting show. Thank you to all the viewers out there that found time to tune and watching. We thank the entire production team for making this possible. I think I'm looking forward to Continental assignments. I think Reda Rose and Zanaco, they are the only two flag bearers remaining in this competition, and they need to give their honor just for the clubs but for Zambia at large, because we still need those first slots to maintain the competitive nature of our league. And looking into Europe, I just hope to see our Zambian sons doing it. I think Fashion Sakala should do it for Rangers. He came in and missed a chance in the Europa. Enoch Mwepu should getting a run against Manchester City. What better platform do you ask for as a player than playing against the Manchester City? Patson Daka should continue what he's doing right. And El Clasico, this is the new El Clasico, which has got no Galacticos whatsoever. In the last 20 years, we've had Ronaldinho, we've got Zidane, we have had Ronaldo, we have Sergio Ramos, but now it's very different feel.
We have Gareth Bale.
We'll see the Gareth Bale who is more
a golf player.
Yeah, a golf player. It's interesting to see what will happen in the Clasico. Thanks to the viewers for tuning in.
And we've come to the end of the show, and a big thanks to the whole entire production team. I've got Fred upstairs doing all the palangating, and Elijah here doing the directing from here. Congratulations to one Isaac who left Bachelorhood. That's last weekend, Saturday. Today he turns a week in marriage, and Angorapson is just looking at me and Augustine and Elijah say, "You are next." And it's been a birthday week for Augustine, and he's still celebrating his birthday. Hopefully, Angorapson will spoil him some today, because Angorapson is a spoiler. But on behalf of the whole entire production team, it's bye-bye. You can sit back, relax as you wait for the weekly gospel show with amazing Katamanda. We're out.